Hey, Ms. Crow, we're just waiting on everybody else, and I have students in here. They're about to leave in 2 minutes. But I
Okay.
want to,
We'll stay tuned.
okay. So that looks like Mr. Timoni is logging in. So I was just letting Crow know that I have, let me go
You're
ahead and
letting some students out. That's fine. Take your time. I'm multitasking.
Good to go. All right. So again, if y'all are interested in joining, or if you're interested in what we're working on with Ms. Quinn and Ms. Lindonio, if that sounds like something y'all are interested in starting, I will help y'all start that because you need to have that, you know? That's just my personal belief. When I was a student, we had UBASA, and you know, at the time, the population was mostly African American and white. We didn't have a lot of Asian or Hispanic students. That was back in 1996. But now there's a need. So if that sounds like something, if y'all want to get some people together and let me know, then I will work with Ms. Quinn to get that started. All right, see y'all. See y'all next week. Last person out, do me a favor, shut the door. Ooh, don't leave Lingfelter your stuff.
I actually texted though.
Did you ever find grandma that's the
What?
your grandma that was Miss Lingenfelter? Remember? I was saying I knew your grandma and she used to, or somebody in your family that used to teach.
Actually, my mother teaches that nativity.
Oh, okay. Ask her if she knows Miss Lingenfelter from the school, from Fort Johnson Middle School. Ask her if.
Actually, wait, Mr. Robbie Lingenfelter?
No, I remember. Robbie is your dad?
No,
Oh.
Richard William Jr. is my father.
But you know Robbie?
I don't know Robbie is.
Okay.
I think he's a different person and not my family. But I think that there are different types of
Lingenfelters. Okay. Because I went to school with Robbie. All right, close the door for me, please.
All right. We'll
see you next week. Hey everybody. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. Thank you. I know it was short notice, so much is going on, but this is very important. This was something that had to happen so that we can proceed with the Shell and I working on our part to get the students together for Ms. Crow. And so I know that Ms. Crow and Mr. It says Yolanda Chisholm, but that's Mr. that is Mr. Thorne. Hey girl, hey Yolanda.
Kim, at the bottom of your screen, your name card said, oh, there you go.
Oh, there you go. You fixed it.
Wrong account. I have two accounts for the school.
So Mr. Thorne and Ms. Crow have met at one point before in the beginning. And so this now is just, I guess, the logistics of dealing with data. And Ms. Farrell, who is the director of guidance, she is going to be definitely a major player in how we get the grades and all that stuff together. So I wanted to make sure we could all have a seat at the table and talk. And Mr. Timoni, who you met briefly, he is working on rewiring some things with advisory for the school. And so although we're the stealth population, we're still obligated to do some of what he's doing, but I wanted him to know where we kind of branch off. We've met for briefly, but it'd be good if he can kind of hear it from Meredith, from you as well. So thank you, everybody.
Well, thank you. This is a big group. I appreciate the time that it takes on a Friday after you've exhausted yourself. If you're as tired as I am from this week, thank you. The first thing to let you know is this is a collaboration. We kind of sit in the middle on a couple of things. We did receive a notification that we will receive pass-through dollars from the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention to allow us to serve high school students, really. And that are facing various risk factors. Now that's all the OJJDP language. That's not the language we use, but the funding from that and the requirements from that are ones that we're trying to make sure that we can fulfill through this program. So that could serve as seed capital, which is its own complexity. So Megan's helping with that. And we have a new program director who's going to start on March 8th. And so she and I will be tag teaming, and her name is Miss Tony Freeman. She worked with advocating for families at DSS, but she is very positive and super asset-based and is going to be a great addition to our program. So Megan's done a really good job of mapping data that Big Brothers Big Sisters already collects, data that y'all already collect, and data we're going to have to collect to fulfill this grant requirement, which you don't so much have to worry about. That's on us, but we kind of sit in the middle and have to keep everybody happy. The other thing that is in play is I did talk to Erica Taylor at the district to understand what data sharing agreements might need to be in place to ensure that we're complying with FERPA. I also have a friend named Jonathan Rao who works for Trident United Way, who used to do data analysis for the state or the Department of Education. So he had some sense. And so then the question for Erica last week was whether or not, because you're a charter school, we would execute an agreement with you or whether we'd execute an agreement with the district. But the answer is we have to execute it with the district. So I'm trying to line up a phone call with is it Buffy Johnson over in data excuse me?
Buffy Roberts.
Roberts, I got the wrong last name. But Buffy Roberts and Mr. Thorne, we can talk about that at some point soon. We do have some examples of data sharing agreements that we had struck when I was with another nonprofit that we could kind of use as a basis, so long as Ms. Roberts believes that there's still quality. And then we would have to build in our system a secure transfer mechanism, which we would have put the cost for. And in that data sharing agreement, there are things in it that are important to you and certainly important to the district. Things that are simple, like we don't publish our data until we've given you an opportunity to look at it, respond to it, and prepare for it. There's anything that hurts you is going to hurt us. So it's not like we're not studying you and your efficacy. We're studying the efficacy of what we hope is a really strong program that benefits your youth. So we're not worried so much about that. So that's a bunch of mechanics that we have to get through and a bunch of hurdles, and that's going to take a little bit of time. And so I'm not sure yet what the through line or the straight path is on that. Ms. Deborah, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that as that you want to speak, or any advice that either of you have for me as I approach the meeting with Ms. Roberts and whether or not you want to be involved.
Well, definitely have to have the agreement, and with CCSD, since we're part of the Power School
Yep.
Database, that's where all of the data is coming from. So yeah, definitely you're on the right track, because I would imagine there's a lot of technical aspects. And
yeah, it's not
just me figuring that out. I'll also have to work with our Matt Gilbert, but I can do that with him.
Okay. And I don't think it's complex once we have the ink done. It's just figuring out the intervals. And so we're thinking twice annually. So midway and post. We might want some preliminary data on like where they finished out their freshman year, just so we have an understanding. But
can you give a little bit of background, because this is the first time I'm coming
okay.
in.
Yeah,
I'm
sorry.
So
Okay.
I think I know what y'all are talking about.
Yeah.
But
And the more I talk about it, the clearer it is. So this is good for me to have to talk about this with some frequency. So we're Big Brothers Big Sisters. Our specialty is one-to-one mentoring. And it is designed to provide that social and emotional protective factors that are going to help kids do better in school, have healthier relationships with peers and parents or guardians, family members, avoid risky behavior of all kinds, and then additionally set their sights and actually achieve more for themselves long-term. So essentially fulfill their potential. We're evidence-based. We have a national model. Our instruments for assessing are national and have been studied. And we do monthly match support. So that's the asset-based way of saying case management, but it's basically we're in their faces with our bigs and our families and our littles on a monthly basis to coach them and to ensure the relationship is progressing as it needs to. As I was thinking, and the nice thing about our program is that our relationships don't usually require brokers. In other markets, they have sort of site-based programs at schools where the teachers and the counselors are the only points of contact we have with those children, and we don't have family engagement, which we don't believe works, and the data isn't proving it works very well. So when we launched here in April of 2019, as an independent 501c3 rather than a program of CYDC. We said no to school-based. We're only going to do community-based. And if we have a school relationship, it's going to have community-based elements in it. So we're going to have family engagement, or we're not doing it because it just doesn't work. Furthermore, we work with all of the children we work. I say all, the vast majority of the children that we work are going to face some sort of economic disadvantage. By and large, 93% this last year were Black and brown, 94%, 83% of which of them were African-American. And so we're going to work with that subset because we're equity focused and that's who we are. The other part of that, though, is that even within that population, we do not focus on your acute kids, like the really, what I think those are your MTSS ones or something. Or I always get the pyramid wrong. Whatever, the most acute. And the reason for that is our volunteers are not clinical practitioners; they're just people like us who want to help. And then, additionally speaking, we feel like family, so we look both at the child, but we also look at the family's readiness. So they have to be able to cooperate with the child safety measures that we have and these kinds of things. And so we characterize the best families as hungry and hopeful, and they don't have everything they need, and they may not have it all figured out, but they're committed to their child's well-being. And when we're working with high schoolers, we say, we want them to be skewing toward that too. So that's what Michelle and Miss Graham and others are trying to figure out, like, who are the best folks for this program.
And so if Meredith, can I fill in there so they understand the connection to, so last year when Mr. Thorne met with Charity and I about what we could do for Charter Goal 3, that was where we came up with the stealth population.
Yeah.
And so what we did was we identified the children who, of course, they weren't necessarily bubble children, and they weren't, they could overlap as AVID, but at the time we weren't really looking at AVID because we were looking at an older group and AVID was freshmen. So we wanted those children who were, who had the ability to move, whether they needed some type of family support, if they needed community support, if they were truant, but they were academically talented. So they didn't have to be children who were struggling academically just because they didn't get it. It could be that student that had a potential, but then they were sitting on a B. Because when we're talking about data and outcomes and wanting to move minority males, particularly Black males, we want to hone in on those children who, can we move them? Can we move that child from a B to an A? Can we move that child from a D to a C? So we want children who, like she said, who are hungry. And so when we developed the stealth population advisory, we did focus on mostly Black males, but we do have other minority males. Now, here's the problem that we ran into. We were trying to do what Meredith is basically offering, Coach Hillier and I and Ms. Barbie at the time. And we were running into problems because we're here all day. And so trying to have that relationship outside of the building was putting more on us, in addition to creating a curriculum for the students in school. So at the right time, through Darren Chico, who's also a former student, Westchester native graduate, he put us in contact with each other, and it was just a perfect fit. So what Meredith is offering takes a great load off of what the stealth advisory teachers would have had to do. And this is perfect because my group is about to graduate. So they're seniors now. Coach Hillier's group will be seniors. So what we're doing now is we're looking to start this with the upcoming freshman group and the upcoming sophomore group, which will be through Master Sergeant Britt and Chris Epps in the science department. They're not at this meeting, but they've been at every other meeting. And so our ultimate goal is to cover every angle that we can to leave no page unturned with figuring out a way to move these children so that we can promote equity and access and show that James Allen Charter High School is doing everything within and outside of the building to move these children.
Yeah. So what we're not as big brothers, big sisters is academics, right? So we're not going to focus on anything instructional that is core. So instead, And the way that I'm selling this to people is saying, okay, well, we're going to work with kids who do not have the same social capital that other kids that like some of our kids might have. And they have all the potential, they've got all the right stuff, all the tools, or not all the tools, but all the raw potential that they need. And the question is, what could we equip them with that would allow them to shoot the moon, whatever that personal moon might be? And so for us, it's really looking at how do we ensure that a group of young people knows exactly what they're going to do the moment that they cross that graduation platform, right? So are they moving on to tech school? Are they moving on to higher education? Are they moving to military? Are they moving straight into the workforce? What would we need to do? So for kids like me, who was more economically advantaged than some, but had grown up in a home of trauma and was first generation college, I really had no idea. I mean, my parents dropped me off and I never saw them again. Like, how do you get through college? How do you avoid, what does credit look like? What does financial planning look like? What does interviewing look like? Applications, appropriate workplace behavior, all of that stuff, so that they have as much information. Now, the other thing that's important for us, again, we're a mentoring organization and we're not group mentoring. So everybody gets their own person. And when we look at data that talks about protective factors for all young people, regardless of their life circumstances, they say that kids that have 3 or more non-parental role models in their lives of any kind, who they feel like they could lean on, end up being more resilient and ultimately more successful. And so we're essentially extending kinship circle, extending family in some way. And so then we bring these youth together twice a month and 2 different small cohorts in year 1 for a facilitated Zoom. That the beginning is sort of a level set. They spit out into their individual Zoom mentor rooms, and then we bring them back together. The other piece of this programmatically are these quarterly family engagement opportunities where we bring our bigs together with our littles and their parents. And if they need to bring their siblings, whatever, we just get enough pizza or whatever that's necessary for that, to allow people to interface with one another. Now, the chupacabra, or the gold standard, assuming we could swing it, is when mom or grandma or whoever is guardian says, you know what, you should invite your big brother to your IGP meeting, or you should invite your big brother to, whatever are those things. Because again, when you're sort of wrapping your arms around this young person and he feels like he's got several people on his team, that's when the magic's going to happen. Like the risk factors in all of this is, how interested are the kids going to be? Are they going to flake? Is the mentor job going to get transferred somewhere? How do I backfill on a new mentor? And these kinds of things. We're going to build year 1 with a cohort of sophomores. They will carry forth into year 2. Then we'll pick up another cohort of sophomores. So we've got sophomores, juniors, seniors. And by the end of the 3rd year, we'll have 90 kids. We're anticipating 60 to 90 kids in the program that we have to find mentors for, and have a curriculum facilitator, and have all those materials. And we have to build all of the policies and procedures. And then we have our own compliance we have to do. It's no small lift, but we feel it's the right thing to do. And as I think about, like, what is a differentiator that is asset-based for kids, particularly, as Michelle pointed to, the stealth population, this could be great for everybody. So we are, I don't like the word experiment because we don't experiment on kids. We are collaborating and learning together in hopes that we can develop something that can become kind of like a crown jewel that other people might want.
Can I share with them the other limitations quickly?
Yeah,
so the other things that we did talk about, because we know that these questions will come up. What happens if a child declines a big? Can they still remain within the stealth population advisory? Yes, absolutely, because the goal hopefully is to get them to move. And so if they decline that opportunity, it's okay. You know, we just will do our part as well, those who will be working with the advisory part will do their part with the academics, you know, Master Sergeant Britt, EPS, and maybe if Coach Hilliard decides to take another group later, we'll do that. The other limitation, one of the things that we talked about with Ms. Murillo was the possibility of creating an advisory for the students who identify as ESOL, and Ms. Quinn has agreed to work with that group. But I do know that because right now Ms. Crow has expressed that there are not a lot of there aren't a lot of bigs available for that particular population. We will have to press pause on building that bridge. So even though that's something we're working on for the stealth population, that ESOL group, they will not be a part of this particular cohort.
And functionally, Michelle, if I could just say a little bit more on that, that's our standards require that children are never in the position of being translators.
Mm-hmm.
And so we cannot serve parents who don't have a facility with English, because we can't put kids in that position. Because I don't yet have staff or enough critical justification for myself to bring on somebody who's Spanish speaking. So it's just a growth challenge where we are in our history.
And so in addition to that, one of the things that's going to help this to flourish, I did explain at the beginning of the year with Mr. Thorne in that meeting that we have the SLT ILT time. And so if, you know, things work out next year, we'll be back in the building and we'll go back to that schedule, which I loved. It worked well. They can still do the general advisory stuff that would be put out through Mr. Tomoni as he's reworking the advisory stuff, right? But then that extended time would be time that if the bigs can communicate with them via Zoom or in the building, or if we bring an in-house speaker, that would be the time where we can have like a lunch and learn, kind of like how I do the chat and choose. We would be able to do that again. And that's something that Coach Hilliard and I actually did, and it did work prior to COVID interrupting it. So I'm thinking that if we go back to the SLT ILT scheduling, that will create an opportunity for us to get those cohorts together, to have those, you know, great sessions in the building. Meredith, if that is,
From my perspective, it doesn't matter where it happens, because we're going to be in the Zoom space. So if they're doing their mentoring session at home, the flexibility around the technology is the thing that has saved us organizationally, period, in all of this. Like, I guess every organization, if you can be technologically flexible, we are. So that's not going to be a problem. The most important problem is consistency and schedule, which Megan has worked to sort of map, understanding that curveballs happen. As long as we are providing our bigs with enough advance notice that they do not feel like their personal time is being undervalued, I think that we can flex. And, you know, we need enough time to fulfill the grant requirements, which Megan has mapped out in terms of the academic calendar for next year. In a rotating cohort, so we don't have 30 kids in a Zoom room, which is just a nightmare, as every teacher knows. It doesn't work for one-to-one mentoring. And so, you know, consistency and reliability and the time frame is really the thing. And that, and also prioritization, and protecting it on y'all's end as much as you can. So.
What other questions do y'all have? Because I know this is the first time we're all together in one setting. Mr. Tomoni, did you have any? I know we met briefly because I caught you up a little bit, but I might have left some gaps in some things.
At the moment, I don't. I just, you know, just trying to kind of hash out the questions I will have, you know, as I'm taking it all in, you know?
Okay. Yeah.
So since it's Big Brothers and Big Sisters, is the stealth population going to expand to females as well? Or just keep it right now at male?
For right now, only male, and the only reason why, because we talked about that as well. Because I did ask, what if a young girl is interested? For right now, just male, because when we looked at the data last year, when Mr. Thorne and I met with Charity, when we first created the stealth population, it was based upon the group that needed to move the most. And those were mostly African-American males with a few Hispanic males. And I think I have maybe 1 or 2 Asian males in my group now. But yeah, so for now, that is definitely something that I would like to see. But for now, because like she said, for lack of better words, this is we're trying this out to see how this is going to work. We're going to stick with the group that we have identified and so we don't have to rewire any criteria right away.
So I will say this, if you find your numbers low though, for some reason, because we need to schedule those youth interest sessions and then the parent info sessions too, then I would invite you to invite girls in. And the reason for that is it's going to be much easier for me to find them mentors.
Okay.
Like I have
That
to
was
work
my next
6
question.
times harder to get a man in the door than I do a female. That said, or a woman, that said, this is going to be an interesting recruitment effort because one of the biggest impediments for us generally is that we kind of cut out of our pool all those that are raising their babies.
Mm-hmm.
But when companies are paying their employees to volunteer during work hours and are allowing them that flexibility, they still go home to their babies and they don't have conflicts night and weekends like the core Big Brothers Big Sisters program does. So I've got guys that I could reach out to who couldn't participate in our ordinary program or our Hallmark program that could participate in the Big Beyond because they can take 3 hours out of their workday and swing that. So it's going to be a mix. And so if you do extend it, Michelle, to females or women, young women, then that's okay. We need to amend our marketing materials a little bit because all we're featuring is teen African-American boys in there. But that wouldn't be too hard a shift if we had to. So if you find that you're not getting enough to get critical mass because 20 is really the lowest end, we could go up to 30, then let's pull in some girls.
Okay.
That way I feel like the justification on hiring somebody to do this job and working with y'all is worthwhile from a financial perspective because we're going to dedicate somebody to this project. Okay.
And then also, because we discussed this also, so this would be my last year as being the connecting point for this. I would not have an advisory next year. So I would not have a stealth advisory after this year. Correct, Meredith? Well,
I'm not your boss. You're in charge of that. We would like, the question is structurally what's going to work for your school. So is it make sense for us to interface with you, Michelle, because you don't have an advisory that you could be the advisor. Oh, 1 second. Hold on 1 second.
Okay. So while she's, go ahead. I'm sorry.
We're bouncing, as far as advisory, we're bouncing around the idea of doing it 3 days a week, possibly, for at least 30 minutes or more. It seems like it would support exploring, including girls in this.
Yeah.
The idea, if you're going to have an advisory that is actually going to function like one versus being a homeroom about connecting, I think we can definitely find interested staff members that would take on that. I think some of the advisories would be, normal in terms of doing things on goal setting, whatever it is. But if we look at Crew at River Bluff or at Lucy Beckham, Beckham is just brand new, but they will also adjust their advisories for kids that would be basically an SLT, the kids that are struggling academically. Here's your normal advisory, but now we see you basically being apathetic or reluctant learner, if you will, and you're going to go to a more structured environment where you're going to focus on academics. So there's several lanes we want to take on here with this advisory. There's the stealth population. There's just every student and building relationships with them, service learning projects, etc. And then, academic, kids that struggle academically. So
Yeah.
hopefully, I think, to me, it sounds like it's all rowing in the same direction.
Mhm.
Ms. Crow, you said that you would have to have one day that they have 75 minutes with the young people, like at one time, right?
Yes,
It
sir.
can't be split up.
No.
Okay. So
Because
that's
you got
the
to
only-
think it's our staff time, because we got to coordinate it all. It's got to be reliable, and volunteers need to know what time they're showing up.
okay.
So
So
we've
we
got,
can-
yeah, go ahead.
We can work that. I know that's one aspect of it that we'll have to think about.
Yeah.
but
So
we'll
every
put
other
that-
week, with exceptions for testing weeks, right, Megan? And with exceptions for vacation weeks, we've mapped it out already. And Megan I think you might have already shared sort of our proposed calendar. The question is, does it work for y'all?
And team, I hate to leave. I have an IEP meeting. Have a great one.
Okay.
Okay.
So as far as we're concerned, in terms of like formalizing this, Principal Thorne, you and I need to put sort of a letter of agreement in front of you, or a memorandum of agreement, which is to say, and the reason I have to do this is because I have to have it to comply with that OJJDP grant. If I don't have it, I don't get that money. And then I can't hire that person. So what I can do is, we have a draft version that's based on some other stuff I've done in the past. You're free to redline the heck out of it. Or just say, you know what, Meredith, you're brilliant. Those are, or anything in between. But I need to get that to you. And if it's makes sense for us to have a follow-up meeting where we can walk through some of the other details in it, and answer any questions you might have. You can invite anybody you want to that. I'd like to get that on the books, and I will send that to you by end of business on Monday. Megan has it pulled together. I haven't looked at it yet. I need to get through it with a fine tooth comb and make sure it kind of hits our needs.
Not my area of specialty to spearhead, but been involved with. I think it would
Okay.
be important to be very specific in the MOA of
Yep.
what data points.
Yes,
Because that would be what the district is also agreeing with, because just so that
everything
very clear.
weaves together. Yeah,
Mhm.
the MOA should amplify the data sharing and vice versa. And then we would also share with you what data we would collect anyway. So the good news is the data we collect, the parents are going to have to give permission to us to collect. So we have our own instruments, and they have to sign up to agree with our policies and procedures independent of you. The other thing that is not uncommon for other nonprofits, but we have to carry some pretty comprehensive business insurance, specifically abuse and molestation insurance, to ensure that everybody is covered on that particular account when any kind of behavior is being, or any kind of exchange is being done on our auspices as Big Brothers Big Sisters. All of our staff have a 5-part layered background check, so there's no question that we aren't meeting our safety standards that would be expected by the district, and those kinds of things. So any kind of attestations that you need us to make, we make those. Like, that's not hard. We're going to run as safely as you do. What, Principal Thorne, Deborah, what kind of information do you want from me as we move forward? I mean, I'm going to get you, we will share the MOA, obviously. Do you want me to rope you in as soon as I get a meeting with Buffy Roberts? Or do you want me to take that by myself? It's up to you guys.
Deb, what do you think?
I mean, I don't mind participating. Buffy's very technical in terms of, data stuff. So Either way, whatever,
Okay,
whatever.
I might take the prelim, and if it gets complex and we need to have a little workshop together on it. I mean, the data we're gonna want from you is pretty straightforward. We can send that to you ahead of time. Maybe Megan, that makes most sense. Why don't we send that to Deborah and Tim as soon as we can, and then get a sort of gold star for that preliminary agreement anyway, that it's directionally appropriate. And then when that will say, I already have sort of soft approval from JI when I go into that meeting with Buffy, so that she doesn't think I'm doing a runaround.
And that should be in your inbox right
Okay.
now. I sent it later last night. I wanted you to have some time to look over the data points. The document is called, I believe it's Big Beyond Data Analysis Plan. There's a big draft, confidential in all caps. And that shows you the entire, it would be actually a 6-year timeline if we're collecting 1-year follow-up data for the last students to exit the program. Then it shows the pilot year timeline, and we have 26 data points right now, and then it goes on to define each of those data points. We'd like to know your comfort level, feedback, suggestions with what should or should not be included. So that should be in your inbox for you to look over. It's in PDF form. So I'll send you a Google Doc if you'd like to make some comments.
So we did
You're
a cross, go ahead.
Talking to me, Megan?
To everyone on the call, yes, it should be in your inbox.
Yeah, I read that this morning. It was very impressive.
It is impressive. I was at 6 a.m. in the bed looking at it on the iPhone. I was like, oh dear, I'm gonna have to get in front of a real screen.
I was channeling Andrew Drake.
It was there, and Megan and I had a good conversation that said, okay, well, if knowledge acquisition and behavior change over a period of time, as we want them to enter at this point and gain at this point, how is it we're going to be able to assess that? I have to figure out on my end how to get some of those additional questions into our CRM so that we can track them. But the degree to which we were already tracking, either through the data you collect and the data we already collect, I mean, that's the best, so we don't have to recreate any wheels. There's going to be a few things that we're going to have to create assessments for on the list, but we'll figure that out as we go. Design build. Okay, so so you have that. Do you guys want until, like, I don't know, Tuesday to kind of digest that and think about it? And then I can sort of reach out to you both and get a sense of how you feel about those data points before I take my call with Ms. Roberts.
At least, yeah. Sorry.
No, you have to tell me. I'm fast moving, and so when you tell me.
I'm ready as soon as Deb reads it. and we-
Okay,
we
yeah,
need-
I opened it. I haven't even had a chance to look at it yet, so.
It's overwhelming at first, but really it's actually very straightforward.
Yeah, it is.
And a lot of big charts and stuff. So even though it's 17 pages, it's not
It's not that dense.
30
It just
minutes. and
seems
you're
dense.
through it.
As Tim was saying, once you understand what it is, it goes quick.
Yeah.
And a lot of the language was taken directly from the program of study, the current 2021 program of study, so it should be familiar.
Megan, is this your new thing? It's good to see your face, by the way. I didn't get the introduction of what your affiliation is with
It's
them.
so great to see you both too, and everyone else on the call. This is one of my new things.
So
This
I
is a very
said,
new year.
the way this happened is I said, I'm going to have to hire a project manager. And Michelle's like, well, we know somebody who might be interested. And I was like, well, can this person speak school speak and Meredith speak? Because it's good to have a translator in the middle. And she said yes. And so Megan and I have been having a good time thus far.
So I'll be working with Meredith through the end of April at least. And then Tony Freeman, the new hire, will be the one really overseeing Big Beyond.
Moving forward. And you'll get to meet Tony at the next meeting that we have. So she starts the 8th. and is getting pushed into the deep end. So we'll do our best. All right. Okay. So my deliverables then are to get you a draft MOA by end of business on Monday. Mr. Thorne, do you want to, is there a day, either the end of next week or the week following, that you want to reconvene at a time, and I'll send a Zoom over? And hopefully we can talk about the MOA and the data maybe at the same time and kill two birds with one stone. So if Deb, if you can make it, then that'd be great too.
A week is way better for me. Yeah, that's
Like the Monday following next Monday, or the Tuesday following next.
I'm
next
pretty
week?
much, for me, it's either gonna be March 8th or March 12th, and I would prefer March 8th.
Okay. March 8th works for me. If it's like, what time of day is best for y'all?
I actually have no appointments that day, so.
Deb, what about you?
I need a time because I'm getting ready to go full on into IGP. So let's just pick a time.
Okay. How about, I'm sharper in the morning than I am in the afternoons, generally speaking. Do you want to do like a 10?
That's fine. 9 or
Sounds
10.
good.
Okay, 10 a.m. on Monday, the 8th. After this meeting, I'll send. And Michelle, are you wanting to be in that meeting? I think it doesn't necessarily have to be the whole crew.
No, you don't have to, and we'll chat later about, I guess, what role that you need me to play moving forward. So I'll chat with you about that, but no, I don't feel like I need to be a part of that.
Okay, this is just the
Sounds
admin.
pretty exciting, you know.
I mean,
Right,
it would,
do
I
that.
always thought you were going to be like the master cat corraller.
Who, me?
Yeah, you're like the circus.
Oh, I will be
Ringmaster.
in a lot, but I have to focus on some other things so I can dip out of this one
You
little
don't have to be
thing.
at this meeting, but you don't get to walk away just yet. No, we got to get off the ground. We got to get the kids in. I got to meet these families. We got to get Tony inviting these folks in, listening sessions. Like, we have that stuff to do, which is much better use of your time. You, Miss Graham, got that covered.
I was going to say, Lachelle's being too quiet over there for the record.
Hiding out in the corner.
And that's Trish Chagall. She's our intern from the Citadel. She's just here Thursdays and Fridays.
All right,
Finishing up her school counseling degree.
cool.
I
Awesome.
actually was a big sister. When
What?
up in New York, yes. This organization is very dear to me. So however I can help, I would love.
Yeah.
to.
Awesome. We got to figure that out, but I'm sure there's some way. All right, perfect. Charity, are you still good?
Yeah, I'm good. And I can definitely come in. Miss Johnson is incredibly busy. She does everything. So I can step in and out as needed
Okay.
so that Miss Johnson can focus on all the other things she's doing.
All right. Well, we're
She's
not
got to
ready.
ring that bell.
Oh, gosh.
All the hallways, all the buildings.
Okay.
Monday
We'll
through
let up on-
Friday.
We'll let up on you a little bit. That's why she introduced us to everybody else. All right, so I'll send the Zoom for 3/8. We have another meeting on the books soon-ish. If we don't, we will, to talk about cohort. We'll go from there. Keep
And
on.
just to be clear, this is to start this for the next school year, but to start introducing and recruiting or looking for mentors maybe before then, Claire.
Yeah, so our timeline, and I could pull it up, but our timeline is for us to have our cohort nailed, at least the ones we want to invite in this month. We need to have listening sessions April with both youth and inviting their families in. So we got to move fast as soon as we can, because to do it the way we need to do it, we have to do full family interviews, full big interviews. So we would take May and June to enroll families. So we do a Zoom with all these families to understand what the assets are in their child, what the needs are, what the family history is, to get a good picture. And then we're going to do interviewing, comprehensive interviewing of our bigs as well. We need to understand that they're safe and what their personalities are and what their lived experience is, so that we can match up people who are compatible. So we got to get on it.
That's the part where Charity was saying that I would, I'm gonna dip out for a second because that's what Lachelle and I know Lachelle has been working on IGP. So we kind of have to schedule time where we can sit down and look at, and Mr. Drake has already sent me a long list of, I guess, preliminary stuff we can look at. So we'll be going through that for the next couple of weeks.
Well,
And
we
now
do
that
the
Mr.
part.
Thorne, yeah, now that Mr. Thorne says that it's okay if we, integrate some young women into that, I may need to go back and ask Mr. Drake to add that to the data list.
Yeah, because some people are going to say no to us.
Yeah.
And some families are going to say no to us. So I'd rather stack the deck knowing that, I don't know, 25 to 30% of the folks are going to say no.
Mhm.
So here's a
I would just
JI
ask,
question.
go ahead,
Sorry.
Deb, sorry, go ahead.
So from a JI question, if I am a family, is my child gonna do Avid and gonna do the big program, or is it, I'm just trying to understand, as like from a school perspective, when we have families ask us about different programs and stuff.
Okay, so Avid, the difference between that is Avid's primary thing is to focus on first generation college students. We don't focus on first generation college students. We focus on the students that have potential to move, that need some type of push, whether it's mentoring or something from teachers or any type of additional assistance. Now, will that overlap? Most certainly. Initially it did not, because we had an older population and Avid was starting out with freshmen. So yes, there are some children who will benefit from both.
Ms. Graham, you had a question or you had something you wanted to say on the item and bringing in girls.
Yeah, no, not about girls. I was just gonna tell Michelle, and just say that I am starting IGP, so we just need to schedule ahead of time when we need to get together and what we need for our meeting, Michelle. And just to say that I don't think I'm gonna be needed at this meeting on the 8th, right? Because
I think we're just gonna do this. These will be the crazy administrator people gonna
Okay.
hang out and do crazy administrative things.
Thanks, Deb.
Yeah, but I know where to find you. I'm gonna teach you how to do this. Don't worry.
We'll leave it to the people who have to do all the work and might know the least amount about it.
My entire job.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a dangerous proposition. All right. I thank you. I'm terrified as I am excited. Like this plane will fly. I'm not quite sure how yet, but this isn't the first rodeo where I didn't know how something was going to come together. It will. So we will figure that out. And I thank you for your willingness to be on the journey. And Michelle, you're the crazy lady that said we should talk about it when Darren said we should talk about it. And thank you for that. Oh, I have a meeting with Darren on Monday. So hopefully I should take a picture. Can I take a picture of the crew? So I can prove to him? I'm going to take a picture of us.
Especially since Mr. Thorne has a correct name.
Yeah, that is Smile. Here, hold on.
Yeah,
Right.
and my dad, and that's good because my dad served as one of Darren's mentors when.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
We'll guilt him because he needs to find me some money. So I'm gonna tell him, guess what's happening?
Yeah.
Guess
Well,
what's
thank
happening.
y'all.
Okay.
And I guess any other questions can be sent to Megan. And Megan will kind of, I guess, can keep a running log of whatever else from moving forward until she's no longer.
Yeah, we're not gonna let her go until we're ready. So gotta figure that.
I'll follow up with the minutes, action items, and any documents that you all need to look at to be prepared for the next time we convene.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great weekend. We'll talk soon.
Good to see
Okay.
you.
All right.
All right.
Thanks.